How you doing?
Yeah. Hi.
Hey, all right. How you doing, Joel?
Welcome to the program.
Welcome to the program.
Right.
Key comment program, right?
Yeah. Hey, I had a question. I was curious. I was at the store the other day, and I was in the dairy section.
Okay.
Are we okay to talk now, or?
Yeah, we're live. We're going.
Okay. Awesome.
I'm
Okay.
here.
And I was looking at milk specifically, and I noticed that there's vitamin D in every carton of milk. I mean, you can't buy milk that doesn't have vitamin D already added. And so I guess that kind of raises the question for me, are Americans, I guess, deficient in vitamin D? Do they need the vitamin D?
Well, do you think the dairy industry is being so kind as putting vitamin D in there to help you?
Well, that's what they say, right?
Yeah, that's what they say. Well, you would think, just give me a little latitude here, you would think that being, it's common knowledge since the 1920s that vitamin A, B, D, E only come through dairy, only come through animal products. It's the only available source of precursors we have is through animal products. You would think the dairy industry wouldn't have to add it if it was actually in there, first of all, right?
Right. Yeah. Okay. So,
there's more to it, though.
Okay. All right.
We'll get into the the actual pesticide conversation because no one really addresses this. I just happened to haul one time back in my old life when I was actually a truck driver. We were hauling vitamin D. When you had to have a hazmat endorsement to haul the stuff in these 300-gallon totes. And we were hauling them into the dairy facilities, the bottling plants. Now they haul it in like 6,000-gallon semi-loads, and it has to be placarded. It's a pesticide, folks. The dairy industry isn't putting vitamin D in there to help you because you're short of vitamin D. They're using vitamin D as a preservative or a pesticide. It's antimicrobial. And see, now this is the fraud in the natural health industry. Now they've got their pesticide, they got their vitamin D now in a capsule to give you to help you. Because test says you don't have vitamin D. So for the most part, their tests are accurate. People don't have vitamin D production because their bodies are not regulating properly, they don't function properly. So I'm really sure, I mean, from my standpoint, the tests are fairly accurate. People are low on vitamin D, but taking a pesticide to get your vitamin D levels up is really not the best way to do it in my book, What about you?
Right. Yeah, I've spent hundreds of dollars on vitamin D3 myself, buying into that. So,
in the past, I have to until I started putting this doggone puzzle together and realized that if your gut worked right, and if you ate only the foods that had vitamin D in it to get the vitamin, the precursors in it, to get it into your body, because vitamin D is actually a hormone that's created like photosynthesis of a plant. It's created at your skin level with sun exposure. This is part of the photosynthesis, the plant part of us, of our meat suit. The whole concept of the vitamin D, though, is several-fold, because if people would just stop eating grains, nuts, and seeds, first of all, then your gut would begin to function properly. And then if you were eating the animal products that actually had the precursors in it, because if you're eating, for instance, any animal that was raised in a feedlot, fed all this industrial waste called food, they don't really have the necessary components in their meat to get transferred to you, even if your gut worked right. It's from grass grass-fed animals or animals that were raised on their natural diet with not being fed industrial waste. So you see, all these little pieces of the puzzle got to be fit together in order for the picture to look right, or the you got to have all the pieces there in order for the car to run right.
Right. And milk is a staple in most households.
Well,
so that's going on.
Well, it's
in almost everyone's fridge.
It's called milk, but that white substance in a bottle isn't really milk for the most part for most people.
Right.
As soon as you take milk out of a mammary gland, you ship it 500 miles, you pasteurize it, you change it, you add crap to it, and then you take out all the good stuff, and then just because it's white in a bottle that says milk doesn't equate to being real milk, real healthy for you,
Right, yeah, for sure.
That's the kind of the gimmick there. Just because it says it on the label doesn't mean it's so. And just because you have all this natural health world repeating the same crap doesn't mean it's going to be fact. Just because your blood test says you don't have sufficient vitamin D levels, and who's to say your vitamin D levels are what they are because of that, whatever reason, and then by drinking or taking vitamin D3 in a capsule or drinking milk with vitamin D3 is going to give you sufficient vitamin. You see, that's the conflict. This is clinical nutrition finest. I was talking about that earlier. Clinical nutrition and reality in the body are two bit different realities.
My question is, okay, we've established that's going on with, there's a lot of products that are made from that quote unquote milk. So that entire industry is tainted with that. Is that where it ends, or does it just keep going with other industries as well?
It's pretty much rampant everywhere. I mean, just for instance, I was talking earlier today with two people. One person, her husband has they got him labeled with kidney cancer, and so she's not doing any dairy, but she is making this protein drink with whey and almond milk. And the other person I talked to just for the show, that had this baby, 18-month-old, they were feeding this baby almond milk and some other stuff, and every symptom, just about every symptom, they were having explained as the toxicity with whey, especially. Whey is touted as some big, in the natural health world and in the weight loss and fitness world as something very beneficial, when it couldn't be. You want to talk about that? You don't mind if I talk about whey, do you?
Go right ahead. Because
it is tied into the dairy thing. Because actually, when you take all the protein out of milk, the milk fats and the milk sugars out, and that's the high valued stuff. You see, everything in the industry is making money, making a revenue stream on every aspect of what you do, and that includes making money on getting rid of your waste. And if you have never heard me talk about whey, I'm going to talk about it again, because I want people to get the concepts here in the natural health industry of the fraud. Because I was intimately involved in the dairy industry through the 90s as this whole whey protein fraud was in its developmental stage. Because in early 1990s, they built this cheese plant in Wisconsin. Look it up on Google Earth. It's Twin Town, Wisconsin. It's a town that grew up around a cheese factory that they put in the middle of the country on this little 2-lane road. Why would they build a millions of dollar factory out in the middle of nowhere? Well, I'm going to tell you. Because the factory was down, and they were paying exorbitant disposal price to get rid of the whey to ship it to the landfill or to find creative ways to get rid of it. So the dairy company got this brilliant idea. Let's build the plant in the middle of the country so then we can get rid of our waste by irrigating it out onto the field. Perfect, right? Get rid of your waste by diluting it with water and spreading it on the field. And we could grow something to make money, and we don't have to pay to get rid of it.
Right.
Perfect, right? Well, they didn't realize the toxicity of whey, and they basically turned this farmland into a wasteland because hardly anything would grow in it after a few years. They poisoned the land. So on one of the fields, they had this next brilliant idea. Well, they feed whey to pigs. We're going to build these big pig barns that hold like 500 to 1,000 pigs, and we're going to feed the whey to the pigs, and we're going to make money. A couple years later, into the project, they discovered how much money they were losing because the pigs weren't living very well. A lot of them were dying. They were becoming fertile. There was all kinds of cancers and health problems. So then, this is when I came about, is just as they were transitioning in to hauling the whey from Wisconsin back to Minnesota, Litchfield, Minnesota, to a dehydration plant. And this is right at the beginning of, this is like the mid-1990s, 92, 3, and 4. They then started taking this whey and mixing it in with calf milk replacer for these big commercial dairies. That wasn't going too bad. But they had this brilliant idea of how to make more money. They got permission from the FDA now to make it a food for people. And they started putting out all this scientific literature and all this crap marketing about whey, the benefits of whey. And they created industrialized ways to take this waste product, turn it into a food supplement to sell to people to get 200, 300, 400% more money than feeding it to cattle and milk replacer. And now we're 20 years later, and I'm starting to see the ill health effects of people consuming whey. 2 generations. We're now seeing neurological problems, infertility problems. We're seeing all kinds of problems because whey is highly toxic to mammals. Just like those pigs in Twin Town, Wisconsin. And because whey now, because it stores the toxins of whey intramuscularly, the fitness industry, the egotistically driven, shallow people that have to look all ripped and buffed up, it actually causes your muscles to become larger because it stores the toxins of the whey intermuscularly, so your muscles look bigger. And actually, if you keep doing it over time, you will begin to have neurological problems, central autoimmune problems, and other musculoskeletal problems because of the toxic buildup in your muscles and soft tissue.
Wow, I bet there's a lot of fitness heads and bodybuilders that would be surprised to hear that.
I was talking to a fitness coach Monday. She got a scan, and I listened to this unique sound that I get to listen to every once in a while. Here, I'm gonna try to duplicate it. Ready? This is how it sounds. It sounds like this. I popped her balloon by telling her the story about the toxic effects and how she was having certain problems, and I was associating them to her whey consumption or to her clients in the fitness of their whey consumption to the symptoms she was explaining to me that she's trying to help them overcome. And I'm telling her that she's helping them get their problems by having them eat whey mixed with almond milk, soy milk, and all these other stuff.
Wow.
Because the natural health industry is telling you to eat this crap if you want to be healthy, and yet they're not looking at what you're feeding them is actually causing them these problems that they're trying to fix. It's just like allopathic medicine. It's perfect business model. Really bad.
Well, it sound like you cut out there.
No, I'm here.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's really hard for people because the disinformation that's spread all over the internet and filled in the heads of the people who are going and taking the classes and becoming trainers, that's what they're being fed is what is correct.
Right, but they're being trained something that's inaccurate, so now they're duplicating it with other people, you know.
Yeah, it just spreads like a virus.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. Virus of the Mind. People should really read that book. Have you read that book, Virus of the Mind?
I started it. I haven't finished it.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's like how your thought process infects somebody else, and then their ego grabs onto it like it's valid, and then it infects them. And then they share it with someone else. You know, it's kind of like that little game you used to play, you know, postage or mailbox, you know, where you put something to this guy and then that guy whispers something to that guy, you know.
You talking about the telephone game?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Or whisper down the alley. There's a couple different names I've heard it.
Yeah.
That's the problem in today's world. You see, you've got 25 newsletters out there all repeating each other's information, and it's all garbage. We now have clinics. I'm dealing with a couple right now, clinics, that they're actually using us in their clinic to help their people because they're realizing that their natural health training coming from Baster or some of these other, you know, big names in this country are so invalid. They're seeing themselves hurting people with the natural health industry information. And they're looking for solutions, and they're ending up coming to us. Because we're odd, because I refuse to give in to the pressure, the pure pressure of all this other crap. Just because Mr. McCullough or the Rump Ranger or some of these other natural news things, they're repeating this stuff, doesn't mean it's true.
Huh.
You know what I'm saying, Joe?
Yeah, I'm here.
I said, you know what I'm saying? It's like just because 18 people said it, that this is fact doesn't make the information actually factual.
Yeah, I can't remember what fallacy that is, what they call that. But
I can't either, but you know, it's the concept now we have because people are not taught to process information based on the trivium and able to critically think anymore. So therefore, they're left with opinion.
Yeah.
And if the public says it's real, well, it's got to be real. You got 18 other people saying the same thing. It's got to be true.
Yeah.
It's like the family that I just talked to earlier today that is feeding, you know, whey and almond milk to their kids, and yet their kids are having all the signs of toxic poisoning, and they never thought about what they're feeding their kid as being the problem. You know?
Yeah, I was drinking all that. I was drinking the coconut milk and the almond milk and only eating plants for roughly a year, and I got really, really sick. And it, you know, going back on animal products helped a little bit, but there was a lot there that I need to deal with, and I didn't really start getting better until I came across you guys, started working with you guys.
I did too. I just happened to have a little foot ahead because I was drinking the old coconut and soy and all that other crap back in the 80s and learned some things in the 80s and the early 90s that really gave me a leg up in understanding the fraud that we're being told is reality. You know, and like the Whey. I mean, I was intimately involved because I used to haul milk from Minnesota over to Twin Town, and I would sit in line for 6 hours on the side of the parking lot waiting for the Whey to get accumulated to pump back into my truck and then haul it back to Minnesota to to the dehydration plants, one in Little Falls and one in Litchfield. And again, you can look at this on the internet. I'm not telling you this is actual reality here. When I started asking questions, why aren't you getting rid of the whey right here? You got the irrigation system and you got the pig barns right there. I can smell them. And that's when I learned firsthand, well, we can't get rid of the whey anymore like that because we've already poisoned all these hundreds of acres around here, and the pig barns, we can't feed it to the pigs anymore because it causes illness. That kind of information I learned by accident because I was just there. It's just like I was hauling chemicals out of 3M plants, delivering them to Maybellines, and I had to have a hazmat endorsement to haul this stuff, unload the chemicals on one side of the Maybelline plant, drive around to the other side of the Maybelline building, and load up finished product that went to Walmart. And people don't understand that they're putting this crap on their body. Well, welcome back. This is the last section of the show. The most awesomest show on the internet, an alternate perspective. You're hearing us on Revolution Radio, an awesome network. A listener-sponsored network, the largest on the internet. So if you're listening, figure out a way through freedomslips.com to contribute to a well-worthy cause. Okay? You won't be sorry. I'm not. I'm here every week. I use this platform to share information from my personal, professional experience and just my crazy thinking to help you to expand your awareness and to expand your perception of the world. To put seeds in your mind so hopefully they'll sprout someday and grow into thoughts. It's that simple. That's how I feel that I'm doing an awesome job, and people keep letting me know that, and people keep listening, and station keeps letting me be here, so, you know. So before the break, we were talking about how I was used to deliver industrial waste from places like 3M Manufacturing and other industrial companies, taking their waste product, hauling them to like Maybelline or Avon or soap, a lot of different soap like Dove, Johnson & Johnson, and then unload on one side of the factory and drive around to the other side of the factory and load a finished product and haul it to the store. So then you can apply this wonderful product like Avon to your body. And Avon is one of the most highly toxic substances you could put on your body. It's amazing to me that this is even legal. This should be, it's actually criminal. Yeah. Because, for instance, let's look up an ingredient called propylene glycol. Okay? Propylene glycol.
Just thinking about that this morning.
You were thinking of what, Joe?
PGP, PGE, and sodium lauryl sulfate.
I'm so sorry, Joe. If you wake up in the morning thinking about that, you're as warm as me.
Well, just thinking about the years that I used to put that stuff on me and in my hair.
I know.
Play with it in the tub when I was a kid. All the bubbles. Hey, bubble bath.
Well, that's more sodium lauryl sulfate. We'll get into that next. Let's look at just propylene glycol. Okay, propylene glycol is a anticoagulant, or excuse me, it's a they use it. I forget the long term, but they use it in products so the products ingredients don't separate in storage or transportation, and it's highly carcinogenic. It's molecular. The molecular weight of it is so that your body absorbs it right through your skin. And accumulated enough inside your body, it causes, carcinogenic, cancer. It will damage your cells, creating the cells to be cancer. it gets lodged in your lymph system and it poisons you. It causes neurological problems, autoimmune problems, blah, blah, blah. It's not good for you. What is it? Well, I'm glad I asked myself that. What is it? It's antifreeze. It's glycol. Glycol is what you put in your car engine to keep it from overheating. Propylene glycol is antifreeze. We used to kill the skunks, the raccoons on the farm with antifreeze, glycol, and Dad called it, the green stuff that tasted really sweet. If the cats, the dogs, the raccoons, the skunks ate it, they would kill them. But yet they're putting it in ketchup, they're putting it in toothpaste, they're putting in all kinds of soaps. They're putting a lot of food nowadays, believe it or not, has it in. Because the ingredients don't separate in the bottle, so you don't have to shake the bottle up anymore, you know?
Do they have to state it, or can they hide it under something more vague, like natural flavors?
I'm not sure if it can be. I don't think natural. It doesn't. No, it's not. It's usually labeled pretty easily. Propylene glycol, PEG, or something like that. It's usually something that's, as far as I know right now, natural flavoring, natural spices. That's all MSG. That's another compound that's highly toxic. I want to get to the bubbling agents because this one here most people don't understand either. It's a sodium lauryl sulfate. Now they got a new one. The sodium lauryl sulfate family is getting pretty popular as a carcinogen. So now they're using coconuts, and it's oleth something sulfite or something. They're changing the molecular structure, one or two atoms, and they're changing the names. Because people are not buying the crap. So they got to change the name of the crap in order to sell you crap disguised as something else.
Perfect example of that was the smart, what do they call it? Smart meters. Okay. That got so much, which is I don't know if people know what that is, but basically I believe it's an ELF. ELFs are coming off these smart meters that they're installing. They're installing on residential homes, and against people's will, the power company's making them do it, you know. And people are getting sick from it. Well, the story gained so much traction that, you know, in different countries, that now the place where I live, they are going to do the smart meters, but they're not calling them smart meters anymore because it's got a dirty name now. So it's the same kind of thing.
Yeah, we had a smart meter when we moved here, and all I did was I called. Actually, there was something wrong with the box that the smart meter was connected to. So when I intentionally had them come out and inspect the box, and when the guy was here, I have children here that are allergic to these EMFs coming off of the box. I'm standing there with the meter, and the thing is going crazy. And I says, unless I get an analog one on here, I'm going to sue your company. And the very next week, they came out and put an old analog meter on it that's not a smart meter because they didn't want to be sued. Really simple. I just asked them really nicely to replace it, or I'm going to sue them. If people would just stand up, I mean, they're doing it. The power companies are doing it because they're getting by with it. Just like Maybelline, just like Avon, Johnson & Johnson, they're getting by with this crap because people are allowing it because of their ignorance. I want to get to the sodium lauryl sulfate because the sodium lauryl sulfate is worse than propylene glycol, yet in sodium lauryl sulfate's in your organic toothpaste. It's in your organic shampoos. It's in your Baby Fresh Johnson & Johnson shampoo for your baby, and yet it's a degreaser. It's the same compound that comes in a can that you spray on the side of your engine block that eats the grease off the side and causes it to fall off your motor. It's called a degreaser or a defatting agent, FAT, defatting agent. It breaks down oil. And guess what? We're like 100% oil or fat. It's your Dawn dishwashing soap. It's all your different soaps that bubble, that break down grease or fat of any kind, whether it's petroleum or animal fat. It'll break it down. It'll digest it down. So guess what? You're putting it on your body. And guess what? It's breaking you down. Yeah. We're not like built out of cast iron. So if we put it on us, it's not like the dirt's going to fall off and we're not going to get hurt. We're actually made of animal tissue. Our meat suit is animal tissue, a type of protein or fat. This is why people, when they do a lot of dishwashing, their hands have this weird texture to them after a while, and they get hurting, and they get swelling, and they get all this weird stuff happening to their hands and their arms. Ask any kid who washes a lot of dishes at a restaurant. Why does he wear gloves?
Mm-hmm.
It's to keep his fingernails on his hands if they're using really some of these cheap soaps. It's amazing to me how toxic our environments are, and people don't have a clue. You walk into Whole Foods or any of these other organic co-ops, and yet you start reading labels like I do, and you will be shocked at how toxic that crap is. You've got to be vigilant in today's world.
Yeah.
So what else you want to talk about today? As long as I got you on here, I'm going to hold you for another 15 minutes so we can finish the show if you don't mind.
Okay.
I like talking to people. It's actually more fun than me just sitting here try to fill the air with information.
Well, I've actually missed the last couple of weeks. I don't know, have you talked at all about the bees or anything new with bees at all?
Not really, but I want to share my beehives because this year is the best year in 14 years.
Oh, cool.
I had just as good of coming out of winter as we went into winter with population. We got 4 hives and had 4 hives in the backyard, where I think we're up to 7 now. And I can't really say for sure because I'm not like taking scientific studies and all this other stuff, but I can say that I use our products that we manufacture on our hives. And I was just out there last week, and I'll be out there later this week and next week. And I don't see any mites at all, which I am happy because last year I had some mites. The year before I bought some bees because I had a bad winter that year, and I got wax moths and mites in the bees that I bought. Hey, we got a caller. You don't mind sharing the airwaves, do you, Joel?
No, I'm glad someone's calling. That's good.
All right, let's add to the group here. I have to turn the background noise off there, caller.
Yeah, I'm looking for the speaker here. There we go.
All
Is
right.
that better?
I think so.
Yeah, this is Doc Who for the Revolution chat room.
Well, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I really enjoyed the show today.
Oh, thanks.
No, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
I've been into all that kind of stuff since the late 60s.
Awesome.
Yeah, reading labels, and I still am learning. If that says anything. I've had a couple of strokes, and I've weathered them fairly well. I've had some speech therapy, and I can't even do physical therapy because of the dizziness. And I've got 2 bad knees. One is worse than the other, so I can't walk.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah. So anyway, are you how verse are you on the black goo?
The black goo? Which kind of black goo?
So when it comes from the earth.
Petroleum.
I don't know that for a fact.
Are we talking about the stuff? There's a tall, slender German scientist that talks a lot about that. The black goo.
Howard Vella.
Yep, that's him.
Yeah, he's pretty knowledgeable.
Maybe you need to school me because I don't know. Joel, you seem to know something. I don't really follow the black goo timeline.
Well, I think it's so important. What?
Yeah. I haven't done enough studying. I haven't read his book, and I've watched a couple of his videos. He does have a lot of good information. Why don't we let the caller kind of let us know what's up with the black goo?
Yeah, I'm listening. Go ahead. We got 10 minutes of the show left, okay?
All right. Yeah, well, I heard you say you were kind of running out of topics, so that's what I do is I jump on when somebody's, tapering off a little bit on any given show. And I've always been one to call in when there's a new host that's kind of fumbling around in the dark trying to find a night light, if you know what I mean.
Sure. Well, let's have some black goo information today.
Have you watched the series, The Matrix?
The trilogy.
Yeah, have you?
Yeah, years ago.
Well, do you remember the black goo in that?
Boy. No, the only goo I remember is the goo they were eating and down there in their ship.
Well, the black goo is in every one of those films. And when Mr. Smith runs his fist at somebody's midriff, I guess just below the rib cage, they fill up with it. He fills them all up, and that's why he's got so many, what you would say are clones, standing by or fighting when he needs them to fight, and so on and so forth. They're skin sacks full of black goo. And Harold Sabella was talking about this, I guess, a German soldier, I presume. I don't know that exactly, but he drank some of the black goo, and they started asking him questions after he had time to digest it, and he started answering the question in first one foreign language and then another to the tune of 80 different foreign languages, and whereas before he only spoke German. Oh. So it would seem that as we know that water has memory, that black goo also has memory, and I also have been able to pick up that black goo, there's good black goo and bad black goo.
So where do you
see
the black goo? I mean, is this something outside of the Hollywood? Is this something
heck yeah. You see, I believe that all science fiction films are based on reality in the future. And most all, if not all, science fiction writers, from Jules Verne, right on up to present day, and even before Jules Verne, it's based on foreknowledge, which the Illuminati has to broadcast what they're doing in so many ways, but nothing. They can be subtle, but not outright. And the way that these science fiction writers get their information is from the secret societies.
Where can we some black goo? Where can we buy some? I want to buy a can of it. Where do
I know you don't want the bad black goo.
Well, I just like to know what good, bad, ugly, whatever. But where would I get some? Because that's kind of interesting now. Or
I guess you could buy some Maybelline mascara and use that. I would say put it under your eyes. If you're going to be under your eyes, if you're going to be throwing a football into the sunlight.
Yeah,
that's what the football players put on underneath their eyes.
Yeah, probably. All sports are rigged. Just ask a bookie.
Well,
if the movies. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say that Harold Kautzvella at the end of one of his talks, where Adam Abraham had him on a couple of or one of his episodes. It was not live, but it was just a section of a talk he did, and he was talking about using that goo. You could use it to create fuels. Well, you can use it for a lot of things, but he had found a way to use it to create basically a resource, a resource that we call limited. Whereas if you do it his way, you can it can be unlimited.
Wow. Well, you're going to have to send me that information, Joel, because that's interesting. I'd love to.
Well, you got to be sure it's not the bad black goo, because imagine if everybody starts burning that as a fuel, and the vapors from the black goo gets into everybody, and that's another potential source for zombieism.
Well, we're in the middle of zombieism. Have you been to the CVS or the Walmart lately?
That's what I tell people. You don't think they are among us, just go to Walmart.
Yeah, like we're walking around in the Matrix film right now,
Well, of course. The only people that are not susceptible to what goes on in the Matrix are those who are awake,
Well, I think we're infested with walkers, or what are known as walkers, but there's one day a year where the walkers turn very feral and get a lot faster, and that's on Black Friday.
Friday.
Were you referring to the skinwalkers? You said walkers, and I was grasping for what you meant.
I just meant the ones that are kind of slower and easier to get away from.
The slow zombie. Oh my gosh.
It's amazing how the ones that are riding those carts around, and they're like, usually a little bit overweight as well. Sometimes that's the reason they're in them. But how quickly they'll spring up when there's a sale on 50-inch flat screens, in fact.
Devil's Food Squares, buy one, get one free.
Yeah, right. Your Twinkie sale.
Well, another reason I don't think I'm dead yet is because I'm wearing a shungite necklace, and I have shungite all around my water bed, and I've got shungite Band-Aid on my water faucet, and a shungite Band-Aid under my smart meter, and on my handheld cordless phone.
That's awesome. Into the show call, fellas. Thank you for coming in. Thanks for listening. Yeah, next week, same time, same bat station.
To the bat holes.
All right, thanks.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio.